Alright guys, what's going on and welcome back to Overunder. Today I want to bring you some gameplay of Ana, the support that I'm yet to play on this account, and hopefully climb a little bit higher, get myself out of platinum. But Ana's a hero that I've kind of held off on a little bit. Haven't had too much experience on the hero, but I'm definitely learning a lot as I play it, and I'm seeing its strengths and weaknesses and trying to, figure out how best to avoid the weaknesses that she has. And one of which, you'll see this Tracer just trying to harass me. If you can establish some anti-dominance, if that Tracer's getting up in your grill, if you do a little bit of damage to that Tracer, ideally you don't use your grenade, because that is a survival tool that you don't want to really just throw out there in terms of using it offensively. But if you can hit one left click or anything onto that Tracer, that's going to really send them into a state of mind that makes them think twice about engaging you one-on-one. And if you're close to your teammates or whatever, that Tracer is going to be even less likely to engage you. So Tracers specifically can be an issue if played well against you, but a lot of the times, if you can just scare them off with a shot, that'll take over half of the health pull out, and they will be a little less happy to take you on. But I want to talk about a few things that I have picked up across my games, whether it be on this account or my main account. And I'll start things off with positioning for the healing aspect at least. I like to prioritize my healing on Ana as opposed to DPSing. DPSing I feel like can be useful and is useful, especially against targets like Pharah, but for the most part I try and heal my allies and let them do the damage for me. And if that isn't working out, that is when I switch to plan B and start shooting bitches with my rifles. So there's 3 techniques for healing that I tend to use, and I like to describe them like this. There's tailing, shadowing, and sniping. Now, when I use these 3 terms, the term tailing, what I mean is if these heroes had body odor within the game, your hero would be able to smell that shit because you're right behind them. You're very close to your ally, you're healing them from point blank range almost, and you kind of just follow them around. You kind of only want to do this when the pressure isn't so much on you, and you can use your friends as a meat shield, like a big Reinhardt or an ultimate using Diva or Roadhog. Very rarely are you going to take too much fire if that's directly in front of you. And use this technique scarcely. You don't want to run 2v6 into the enemy team, but if it's a control point situation and if you stray too far away from your beefy Reinhardt, we'll keep that up for consistency. If you stray too far from that Reinhardt, what's going to end up happening is that you can get singled out, and instead of targeting the Reinhardt, they end up targeting you. Your Reinhardt stops getting heals, and your nano boost or whatever you choose to do might not even be nano boosted, but your effectiveness within the fight itself will be lowered, and your chance of death gets a little bit higher. So that is tailing. And moving on to shadowing, you can probably imagine what that is, right? If you imagine all heroes like a Tracer, if they recalled 3 seconds behind where exactly that would be, that's probably where you should be standing. And for tailing and shadowing, I like to primarily focus on the no-scoping mechanic, and if you weren't aware, I'm sure you are, especially if you play Ana just a little bit. If you do use the no-scope, it is a projectile, meaning that it has travel time between you and the target that you are shooting, which is why I only recommend no-scoping for the most part when you're at this tailing or shadowing range. So what I'm doing right now, I'd probably consider, it's a mix in between tail and shadowing, but within that no-scoping range is when I choose to use that terminology, I suppose. But the third, of course, sniping, pretty much, it's at the same time the most safe and the most dangerous technique you can do to either heal or DPS with Ana. Being further away from your team can mean that you're in extremely safe positions, such as Watch Point Gibraltar. If you're up on the catwalk or somewhere very far behind your allies, and the enemies don't have flankers, you're probably the safest hero on the map. But in other situations, such as Lijiang Tower or any King of the Hill map, if you're far away from your team, you're extremely prone to flanking, and more than likely you will get taken out. So that is the 3 levels of positioning or healing techniques that I categorize with. I feel like it's a very good way to think about Ana. Should I be tailing, should I be shadowing, or should I be sniping my allies to heal them? And for the most part on King of the Hill, I'd recommend the tailing and shadowing the most. And when it comes to payload and whatnot, I stray towards shadowing and sniping. As I said before, in maps where you have those secure positions away from your team, that's when sniping is most effective. But in maps like King of the Hill, that is definitely not going to be the case, especially if you're getting focused at all. But by all means, if the enemy have absolutely no focus on you, sniping may be the technique. And of course, with sniping, when you scope it in, you turn that projectile into a hit scan. It gives you a bit more reliable of healing if your aim's a little bit stronger, because you don't have to predict movement as much. And that can definitely make things a little bit easier to keep your allies alive. And with that said, you can still use the ADS and make sure you're a bit more accurate, especially even if you are in those situations where the no-scope could potentially be acceptable. But that should be enough covering that. Within these lower games, I feel like enemies struggle to pressure the Ana, whether it be the enemy Ana or the ally Ana. It's very rare that I feel like an Ana is... like, if they're in a decent position, I feel it's quite rare for them to be focused quite hard. You can see in this game in particular, I'm kind of just skirting around the outsides of the fight, trying to get as much healing as I can. This match was recorded pre-nerf. So, for those who don't know, the nerf was that Ana's grenade got a little bit bigger, but they nerfed the rate in which her nano boost gets charged up, which... Ana, like, realistically, as it stands currently, like, already has the ability to build the ult quite quickly, so it was kind of ridiculous before. But what is interesting is that when you're getting flanked as Ana, and you feel like there's no way you can survive, like, I'd always recommend potentially swapping to a hero like Zenyatta. I made a video about Zenyatta yesterday. You can check it out if you like. I talk a lot about positioning and stuff in that game as well. But... one thing that this grenade buff has done, which is a little bit worse for Zenyatta, is that Zenyatta's ultimate transcendence, obviously, if you apply the anti-heal to the enemies, with the grenade getting a little bit bigger in its radius effectiveness range, Zenyatta has once again received a little bit of a nerf, which is kind of strange. Like, they've buffed Ana in one way that really punishes Zenyatta, but in the same set of nerfs, it's really stepped Ana's, effectiveness down a little bit, which is definitely needed. I don't think there's too much debate about the broken nature of Ana in some situations, and I've been reading and or thinking about ways that they can change the ultimate, and a suggestion that I saw somebody else had posted is that the nano boost should no longer apply the damage multiplier, the 50% extra damage, to that of ultimate abilities. So a big problem in competitive games and high-level matchmaking is obviously the Beyblade Reaper. When you nano boost a Reaper, he chucks out the Death Blossom, that's 300 damage per second, with ridiculous move speed, and if you chuck a Zarya Bubble on top of that, you're not going to stop that little piece of shit from spinning down your team and mowing them down like a lawnmower. And that is a problem. That is a problem that I dare say will be addressed. I don't think it'll be too long before that's out of the game, but for the time being, that's what we have to deal with. And I thought that was a very good suggestion, but I think the more simple approach to this problem, I think just removing the movement speed from the nano boost would benefit a lot, because even though Ana Lucio is picked up together a lot at the moment, I feel like they help each other too much out in the speed department, and it's been quite obvious in the upper levels of gameplay how effective that speed manipulating mechanic can be. Positioning, it doesn't go out the window per se, but it does get a lot harder to play around something when they have easy access to punish poor positioning. You can't react as quickly, you can't anticipate, like, you really have to rely on completely predicting what they're going to do. Like, they're going to bum rush us right now, let's back off 5 seconds before it happens, because if you don't think quick enough, or you don't expect it coming in the first place, you're most definitely not going to outrun it, and surviving it becomes an extremely huge issue. So that's why I think removing the movement speed from nano boost would be a good nerf that Ana really deserves, but for the time being, it isn't nerfed. You still have that extra movement speed, so go for your life and abuse the shit out of it. But I think the strongest pairs with Ana currently, I kind of want to discount Reaper as a strong pair with Ana. Not because it's not strong, but purely because it's broken. Like, it's literally the most overpowered thing in the game. in my opinion, at the moment. There's abilities like Graviton Surge, which are obviously extremely strong, and in my opinion, a bit overpowered, but just the anti-counterplay, like the lack of a counterplay to that situation is a little ridiculous. But if you don't have a Reaper on your team with the Death Blossom and or something close to that, Reinhardt's, Divas, Roadhog is an ally that you want to hesitate using your ultimate on, unless of course he has his ultimate at the ready. I wouldn't recommend ultimate like using the nano boost on a Roadhog without that ulti at the ready. He can pump out a lot of damage, but if he doesn't land a hook and whatnot, you're going to waste that ultimate a lot. Heroes like Soldier 76 and Xayah can also be viable in certain situations. Soldier is one of those situations where you will want to have that ultimate up as well, and Xayah will want to have either a Graviton laid down and decent amount of energy, or just flat out a lot of energy. It sounds a little bit strange when you nano boost a Xayah. That beam starts to sound like a wasp, taking it in places it's never taken them before, but it is a very strong combination when used correctly. And of course Genji is always a strong pair with the nano boost. And remember, with nano boost, because you amplify the damage of your allies, it can be quite acceptable to ult them before they actually have their ultimate, just as long as they're close. You don't want to be too far away from the ultimate, but within arm's reach, so once they do start dealing just a little bit of damage, they have that ultimate at the ready. It can clutch out a fight if you can get that ultimate out quicker, because you've given them the damage that they wouldn't have built the ultimate without having it. So that's about all I can think of off the top of my head. I of course recommend, if you're getting punished too hard, Zenyatta is always a pretty good swap out for Ana. If you're not feeling like you're having too much of an impact with your nano boosts, and or you don't have too many targets on your team that you consider viable of taking the nano boost. And of course, if you can't abuse nano boost, Ana isn't the strongest pick. And I'd probably recommend Zenyatta to be a pretty strong substitute, providing you have a Lucio, especially on King of the Hill. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching the video. That's about all I have time for today. Hopefully I haven't left too much on. There's always too much to cover in these videos, but remember to check out my Zenyatta video that I posted yesterday. I think you'll get a little bit out of it, especially if you got something out of this one. But anyway, guys, that is me done for today. I'm out of time. But thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.